Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, your cosmic GPS for life, love, and everything written in the stars. We're Tali and Ophira Edut, the AstroTwins, here to decode the astrology of the moment and help you navigate your destiny like a pro.
Hey there, friends. It's week of March 30th to April 5th, and we're about to embark on a new month. Tali here in Seattle, Ophi in New York. A little bit of spring seems to be coming up, and wow, it's almost April. It's cherry blossom season here, so they're all popping. I have a really beautiful one right outside my front window, and it like spans the whole. I live in a craftsman that was built in 1900. I love my house, my sunny yellow house, and it has a bay window, and literally this has been bringing me so much joy just looking out at this wingspan of the tree, and just like it's all these like puffy white flowers. It's like it's in that glowing phase right now, so
that is
super
a
grateful
Seattle
for that.
special. We are not there yet, but the magnolia tree outside my window looks like it's about to start opening. I did see some pink flowers in New York City, so we're almost there here on the East Coast, I guess. But
well, good. When I come out there, I'll get a double dose of it. Well, Monday we've got Venus heading into Taurus. Venus, the planet of love, has been in Aries, which, is more feisty, fiery, and combative. Not really the harmonizer, more of the one that's going to take the stand for everything. Venus isn't happiest in Aries, but it loves being in Taurus. That's one of its
it was a very
signs.
Venus and Taurus conversation we're having, talking
I
about
know,
flowers and gardens and all these
we gotta find it where we can
things.
right now in this world. So Venus heads into Taurus till April 24th. And then Tuesday we have the Libra full moon, which also dovetails with Passover. Ophi, you dubbed it Peaceover this year, and we're going to get into that.
We are celebrating Peaceover. We are turning a holiday that is in a lot of controversy right now, or can push some buttons easily, into a moment to talk about peace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Venus and Taurus is also, so Venus is in its home sign of Taurus, which is about that harmony that, God knows we could use it in this world. Its entire world feels like it's at war. Friday, there is the third Mercury-Jupiter trine. Mercury, is more about those buzzy little details, and Jupiter is the big picture thinker. We've had 3 of them because of Mercury's retrograde since the winter. 3 times Mercury in Pisces, which can muddle details, cause illusions and confusion, has been in this trine, this flowing angle with worldly Jupiter in Cancer, which is very nationalistic in a lot of ways. So I feel like hopefully maybe we can get a ceasefire, some agreements going here, even though the outcomes
very
may
optimistic,
not be. I know,
given all the troops that were just deployed, but what we're Sages, we're optimists.
Well, there may be some, it may be good for some, not for others, and then on Sunday, Sunday could just undo Friday's work, because the Aries sun is in a square, a clash with Jupiter in Cancer. I also see that as a little bit of a battle of the sexes potentially too. So,
Jupiter in Cancer, even though it's according to a part of astrology called the essential dignities, Jupiter is what's called exalted in Cancer, meaning it's supposedly in its highest expression, but I have always found it to be a problematic placement. So because Cancer is very home and protectionist, and Jupiter rules cross-cultural relations, and it's very worldly. So it's kind of a mismatch of energies. Like people's, we get these big Jupiter egos around home and nationalism, and we'll get into how that's playing
Well,
out
you've
this
got
week as
Marco
well.
Rubio trying to get the United States to take over Cuba, which is his, family's homeland. But like, it's just
Venezuela, Greenland, Cuba.
Harg Island. I mean, the Israel trying to, take over more of Lebanon. And I mean, it's just, we've got,
This
but those are only
expansion,
two of
Jupiter's
the, yeah,
expansion, and Cancer is
expanding
home and
borders.
homelands. So it's just,
Remember Russia and Ukraine? Doesn't that, I mean, that's still going
right.
on. Sudan, I mean, it's the war. And unfortunately, I mean, fortunately, in some ways, unfortunately, from this point of view, there's going to be a lot more Aries action starting next week. We'll have Mars moving into Aries, then Mercury goes into Aries, Chiron's in Aries, Saturn, Neptune, the Sun.
That
And
weekend
then
of the Aries
Eris, which we
new
talked
moon.
about, the
Oh yeah.
female warrior. So there's a lot, there's a lot going on. I mean, if you are an Aries, I hope you're enjoying it. A lot of Aries I know have had big changes around career and work or just their view or their path and good in a lot of cases,
Mm-hmm.
But it's also very like, it's a lot of energy, a lot of
A lot
novel
of fire,
energy. And
a lot of newness. Yeah, there's going to be 7 placements in Aries at the new moon on April 17th. So that weekend, at the tail end of Aries season, looking ahead, very fiery moment. And then we get Taurus season and a little bit of relief from it. But Mars, yeah, will be going into Aries from April 9th until May 18th. So we're gonna be feeling that. By the time you listen to this, if you're listening a little later in the week, our monthly horoscopes should be up on astrostyle.com for you to learn more about how that's going to impact you.
well, speaking of Jupiter and Cancer gone wrong, in pop culture news, uh, Cancer's associated with the feminine, and it has brought a lot of like this Erica Kirk, like zealotry around femininity and motherhood. Jupiter could be zealous. It's the ruler of our sign, Sagittarius. So that preachy, righteous energy. So apparently there was a Barbie Dream Fest in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is now being compared to the Fire Festival. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it happened. There was a whole documentary on it where I forgot what the guy's name was, but Ja Rule was involved in this, douchey guy who got all these people to, he billed it as like this incredible festival with music
Oh
and
my
tents. And
God.
then people came and they got rained on and there
There
was
was
no
no
food. They were
food and
given
no
like
escape.
sandwich. Yeah, they couldn't get off the. So, anyways, I mean, on a much smaller scale, people spent
Dumpster fire.
$72 and flew to Florida and they just went into this giant convention center and was like patches of astroturf with like a life size but like ridiculous like 101 out of the box, not even a bouncy castle size dream house and lots of like empty space. So anyways, leave Barbie to Greta Gerwig and let's move on. And then also we
Well, there's
had,
an even worse
yeah.
manifestation of Jupiter and Cancer, too. And this appears to be a real thing. Jupiter rules higher education and
Mm.
colleges. There's literally a trad wife university. I'm not even kidding.
What?
Oh, yeah. Learn how to be a what? Sign up and become a wife today. Take the full short courses at your convenience. The full course is 4 semesters, and the short course is 3 semesters. And we are
Wow.
here to give you everything you need to have the mindset and the understanding of what it takes to acquire a high value man. I mean, oh my God. Move like a wife. What is real beauty? Pleasing heals all. Oh my God, this is like literally a real freaking
I
thing.
can't
Like
even.
someone
We don't
alien. I mean, we
know
need
who.
another comet. We've already had three. We've had Three Eye Atlas disappeared and left us. If you want to know about that, listen to the last couple weeks. I will continue to cover it because I am the alien of Astro style here. But um,
Well, we
I
do
mean,
have NASA potentially doing the second lunar landing since the year we were born, 1972. They may be launching on the Libra full moon Artemis 2. Thank God they waited for Mercury to go direct. In fact, all planets
they
are
know.
direct right
They
now,
know
so good
now.
timing. But there is Astro Christina. She is on Instagram, Christina Koch, who's an Aquarius. She's the mission specialist, and there's actually a black pilot, Victor Glover, who's a Taurus, and then the commander is an 1111 Scorpio, Reed Wiseman. So three people, and there's all those ridiculous conspiracy theories that the moon landing was fake. So we need you guys to go and maybe bring back, the moon represents the feminine in astrology. Bring back some entities with you to help us down here, like please
I've actually
Artemis
heard the
too.
fake moon landing thing from people that I respect and was surprised. So that really did get out there, which is, a Jupiter and Cancer moment for sure.
Well,
Cancer ruling
Artemis
moon.
is, Diana, Apollo and Artemis. She was the female twin, the female hunter. We are in the gate of the huntress in human design this week. The sun is in the gate.
821.
Yeah, so I mean, let's have a positive, let's have a great launch to the moon during the Libra full moon. That would be great.
Can we take some of these people here who are causing trouble and just leave them there? Could we do a drop off
Yeah.
program of
They're
some
going to
kind? Yeah.
Mars where it's
Yeah, they don't
like,
deserve the moon. Like,
yeah,
no, keep them away from the divine feminine.
yeah,
No moon landings
like
for
it,
you.
yeah. Well, maybe, maybe send them to the galactic center, actually.
Where Three Eye Atlas comes from and can deal with them.
Exactly. That black hole can suck them on in. We did have two Pisces celebrities in a little bit of heat, and we're still trying to figure out what went on with Chili Razonda Thomas from TLC and Chapel Roan. So it's giving smear campaign, but also like
But maybe, I
but
don't know.
also like
Did they or didn't
a
they?
little bit of a call out. So Chapel Roan was in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and a security guard went over to, it was Jude Law's stepdaughter, actually.
I think she walked by Chapel Roan's table or something to see if it was her, and then a
Yeah, that was it. An
security guard
11-year
went
old
over.
child fan. Yeah, Ada Law, and a security guard came over and, was supposedly aggressive, like leave her alone. But it wasn't even Chaperone's security, and she's claiming that, it was that she didn't even know about it or even see the girl. But now videos are coming out of her sending her security guards to tell people to back away. But to add another,
She's kind of known for that, I think, or just for
right,
like having um
being like,
moments where she wants fans to leave her alone and being really
and the
assertive about it,
paparazzi.
which is like a conversation about boundaries ruled by Saturn, which was in her sign. And right now, interestingly, from an astrological perspective, Chapel Roan is in her Saturn return. Saturn is in Aries, where it was when she was born in, I believe, 1998. And so she's in her Saturn return, which is a time when, especially at the beginning of it, is when you really sometimes have a moment where you clash with authority or rules or the public, or you start to have an encounter with boundaries, or
Yeah.
for celebrities, when they start their Saturn returns, it can be a moment when they fall from grace a little bit, or become accountable for things or accused of things that they have to deal with. I mean,
Well, Doja
security.
Cat, who just, I think, finished her Saturn return, is a Libra, and she's been talking about her borderline personality disorder. I started scrolling, and she was saying that what people don't understand, very fair-minded Libra of her to step in, but she said what people don't understand is that there's these resellers who come in to get a celebrity's signature, and they push their way in pretending to be fans, and then they take a picture with you. Then they go on the secondary market like Depop or whatever. Oh, a signed Chapel Roan album, and they sell it for a bunch of money. And that, Doja Cat was saying, well, it's, you have to do a little bit of it, but after a while, it's like you start to feel used and taken advantage. And so that could have been happening,
Right, because the
with
star
Chapel.
never gets any credit. There was other stuff that came out about her being like going to Grammy camp, and her grandfather being a wealthy developer, real estate developer, and all this other stuff. So
Who,
I don't know
Chapel
what.
Roan?
Yeah,
But like,
yeah.
what? Who cares at the
Yeah,
same
I think
time?
it's like but this is what happens in the Saturn returns sometimes. Like, people who have crafted a narrative, and then it may not really be true. Like, the receipts do start coming when Saturn. So she's also in her North Node return at the same time, which is, so there's like an opportunity maybe for Chapel to look at doing things a little bit differently with the public, but there's also a lot of
And
discourse
owning
going
her
around.
fame a little bit, like,
Yeah, yeah, just you signed up for this is what people are saying, but at the same time, like, there's
she's
also
allowed to have
there's
boundaries. She's
yeah,
taking a
there's a
stand for
conversation
that.
about that, about like, well, male celebrities, would they be expected to do the
Of
same?
course not. Of course.
Yeah.
And then you have Chili. I was like really excited because I saw that TLC, and Vogue and Salt and Pepper were going on a tour together. And this one's also giving a bit of smear campaign, like the timing of it, but also not. Like, it's also like raising more
I don't know. I think
questions
people were
too,
like, "Oh my
because
God, Gen X reunion. What has Chili been up to?" And then they probably
she
followed her and
apparently she
found.
accidentally reposted this awful meme. And she even came on and made a video about how she just was scrolling. She accidentally she didn't even know about the repost feature, which is new on Instagram. But she reposted this awful meme about Michelle Obama being a man. And, you
Yeah, but
know,
what also surfaced were records of her making two or three donations to Trump's
and she said she
campaign.
was doing it through, she thought she was donating to veterans, which is also fair because how many grifty things has Trump slipped in, and you think you're donating to something and you don't read all the way down, and there it is. I mean, I could see that as a Pisces,
But
but
doesn't she follow like
yeah,
a lot
there's
of
the thing.
MAGA
There's the thing.
people
She
too?
follows Don Jr., Tommy Lahren, and also like what's in her algorithm that Michelle Obama meme would even be in her feed. So there's a lot of like questions around that. They both have, so the North Node is in Pisces right now, and for a lot of Pisces, that's pulling them into their higher destiny, but it's also kind of forcing a little reckoning, like, well, you got, maybe Chili, she did a video saying I'm not MAGA. The fact, like, again, would a white celebrity have to defend that? We have Carrie
Well, maybe.
Underwood
I
saying the
mean,
most
Sydney
horrific
Sweeney
thing.
does.
Yeah, I'm sure. So Drewski, who's a comedian, dressed up as Erica Kirk, and he's black, and he made himself look like a white woman. And then Carrie Underwood gets on and says, someone should do blackface and do Michelle Obama,
She did. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I hate
She's
her
another
now.
Pisces too. Yeah, she has gone so far right. So
Yeah.
um
She already got canceled for me when she performed at the inauguration or whatever.
but
Yes.
anyways, yeah. So the
God,
Pisces
that's
are
terrible. That's just
Pisces,
absolutely
three
terrible.
Pisces celebrities kind of
I mean,
doing
Chile, it's like, I don't know, Nick Cannon was talking about how he F's with Trump and go like there are, for whatever reason, like, this is just the cult knows no bounds. People go in there, they still have this image of Donald Trump as the casino apprentice, your
the
fired
baller,
funny
the
guy who was in the Hamptons and a New York socialite, and they don't understand. They just, or maybe they do, but if they do, they're completely out of touch. So whatever's going on there with Chile, like, whoever put this tour back together probably did not imagine or anticipate the receipt keeping that's going on with Gen Z and social media savvy people. And you know what? That's something that's
well,
going to
people
have to
just
be
want her. She said she's
accounted
not MAGA.
for.
People are like, did you vote for him or not? And like, it's also bring up a conversation like, okay, like this is where we're at. Like we're at that point in time where
Well, this is
voting
good though.
for, yeah, I mean,
This is good.
voting.
People know if they spend their money on a ticket, it's going to go in Chili's pocket. And
Mhm.
that money could go to fund
Accountability.
MAGA if she's donating to his campaign. So they're like, I don't, we're at that point.
Yeah.
Like, this is what was created by the world we live in. We don't want to have, that's why people are boycotting, a lot of brands and big box stores and companies that support. It's almost impossible to find one. I was trying to rent a car and I was like, okay, they all give vehicles to ICE. Like,
Mm.
but you do what you can. And I mean, I want nothing more than to support a tour of Black women. It would be horrible if that got canceled because of this. And at the same time, like, Chile, what were you doing? What about your friends? What are these waterfalls you're chasing?
Right. That's
We
what
don't want
everyone's
no
saying.
scrubs and we don't want no MAGA scrubs. So maybe a little lyrics review is in order.
Yeah, I mean, Salt, who's an Aries, came forth and it's like, don't let them break your spirit and bring you down. So, yeah,
Such an Aries woman, like they are your BFF, but like, all
we'll
right,
see where this
see where
develops.
this goes.
I
Come
hope it.
on,
I hope it
ladies. You came
actually
out of the
winds up
90s
with.
conscious hip hop movement. Yeah.
I mean, we have the right to vote for whoever we want to, and too. But I think like people want to know where she stands because it's so jarring. I mean, this is like a build is like some women's tour and women's rights have been destroyed and decimated and continuing like to push this like narrative on us of like you should be a trad wife, you don't get your reproductive rights. I mean, like
And
it
that's why
it
they don't want to give money
matters.
to Chile because she might turn
Exactly.
around and give that money to something that takes our rights away. People are voting with their
Or
dollars now.
well, we just want to know where she said, are you going to use this like newfound popularity to promote those anti women causes in any way?
Right.
You know, she says she's about peace and love, but like it's a
Mm,
spiritual bypass at
Pisces.
best, you know? And this is where we're at. If you're going to be pushing girl power, then you better be on the side
Yeah.
of empowering women right now. Speaking
People aren't just
of,
looking at what people are saying. You're saying you're about peace and love, but your actions are saying something else. So
and
that's
it's
not
hard, you know,
it's
it's
not
hard to
enough for
be.
people anymore.
I'm going to say I'm about peace and war, peace and fight, because I can't even say like, but yeah, I'm trying peace not at any price, you know. It's like you can't do that emotional
Those tickets are
bypass.
$250, so
Are they? Well, damn.
yeah, I saw
Okay.
someone said they had just spent $500 on 2 tickets. So maybe not all seats, but hey,
Tickets do cost that now. It's concerts are not cheap. Well, in other world news, here we are, Libra full moon, and we get a Supreme Court hearing April 1st, this Wednesday on birthright citizenship. Trump is trying to uh, overturn or at least amend the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was passed by Congress on June 13th, 1866, ratified July 9th, 1868, and it extended liberties and rights granted by the Bill of Rights to formerly enslaved people. So this was following the Civil War. This gave blacks citizenship rights in the United States, as well as immigrants, children of immigrants, all persons born or naturalized in the United States. So your parents could be from different countries. If you were born here, naturalized here, you are a citizen. So now the argument from Trump, aka Stephen Miller, probably, and Steve Bannon, the evil Stevels behind things, arguing that this is subject to the jurisdiction thereof, rules out children born to parents who aren't citizens. So he wants to rule out if both of your parents aren't citizens. The argument is that you're not guaranteed citizenship. Like he wants to take away that birthright citizenship if your parents are immigrants. Both of them are immigrants. Whether they're citizens or not, I don't know. But like, let's say you were born to two immigrant parents who are undocumented. Well, you don't get to be a citizen and the reason, because they may feel loyal to a foreign country, even if they have to follow US laws while they're here. That's so ridiculous.
Such BS. Everyone's loyal to the foreign country that they're from.
Okay, what about all the Italians and Irish
Jews who've never even lived in Israel, who are loyal to Israel,
who are like voting for you in Staten Island and New York and from Queens with you? You know, what about Marco Rubio? Aren't his parents both from Cuba? I mean, it's just, if the Supreme Court does not throw this out, I don't know. I mean,
I believe they're capable of anything. And interestingly, from an astrological POV, when the 14th Amendment was ratified was the last time Neptune was in Aries. So Neptune has just returned to Aries again this year, January 26th, for the first time since the mid 1800s. And in 1868, that was when Neptune was last in Aries for that time. So it's
wasn't Chiron there too?
Chiron was newly there. So the 14th Amendment is basically having a Neptune and Chiron return. And Neptune and Chiron are both associated with healing, but also, sacrifice, suffering, oppression, wounds. So a national wound being reopened by this. I just can't with the hate. Just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I guess, peace. You can still be for peace and be angry. Like that's the thing. It's like you can be angry about the lack of peace, but
it doesn't mean being passive.
Yeah. On that subject, Passover, the Jewish Easter, if you will. No, it's like we have Hanukkah during Christmas and Passover during Easter. Those are our two big holidays. Passover always dovetails most with a full moon, and usually the Libra full moon, sometimes the Scorpio full moon in spring, but this year it is with the Libra full moon. It begins 8 days long on April 1st, and we were really struggling with how to celebrate or how to honor it this year.
So Passover is the Exodus story, the story of the Hebrew slaves being freed from Egypt, where they built the pyramids, and having a 40-year wandering through the desert led by Moses, where he got the 10 Commandments. There was a part of it where some of them wanted to tap out, and they created a golden calf, melting down their gold, and began worshiping that. And, there's a treatise on materialism. So, we have a very strange and interesting relationship with our own Judaism. We grew up in the Midwest, Middle Eastern in the Midwest. Our dad is a refugee who was born in Bulgaria, went to Israel. Our grandfather on our mom's side was the chief interpreter of the Nuremberg trials. And our grandmother had to literally hide from the Nazis during the Holocaust. So our family was impacted by this, and Jewish holidays were always a big deal to celebrate in our home, as well as Jewish education. But since October 7th, especially, and a lot of the awakening that a lot of our fellow Jewish people have gone through, we're also really looking at some of the ways that you could say, Jewish education, Hebrew schools have taught us about our culture, but also indoctrinated some things where part of the narrative was left out. For example, the Nakba, the forced removal of Arabs from Palestine in 1948 when it became the state of Israel. A lot of inconvenient truths that are part of the history of Israel that are, showing up now. The situation in Gaza, the genocide, because that's what it is, and just the hypocrisy. It feels like so much
Our
of what
culture has had a lot of hate, and we've had genocide in our own history, from the Holocaust to the Inquisition. We've been kicked out, we've been wandering. So it's challenging to hold the space of we have been victimized. That doesn't mean that we can't victimize others. I think a lot of people are struggling with that, and Passover is kind of a very much a victimized moment in history of enslavement for the Israelites, for the heat. But
so it felt like too big of a conflict in many ways for us to just sit around the table and retell the story of the Exodus. Right. And sing songs like "Let My People Go" when we have ICE detention centers going up here, or, read about the golden calf when people are worshiping materialism more than ever, or talking about a pharaoh when, we feel like that archetype is at play in the leadership of America.
Exactly. And Israel. And also with, March of this year, the United States, Israel, and Argentina voted against a UN resolution that declared the transatlantic slave trade the gravest crime against humanity and called for reparations. Like, it was a Ghana-led resolution. And, I don't know about Argentina, but for the United States, which was one of the worst perpetrators of crimes against enslaved Africans, and then Israel, when we're having Passover to talk about the horrors of slavery, to, not to turn down reparations and not agree that that was the gravest crime. I mean, maybe it's the language of the gravest crime that, like, now we're fighting over what was the gravest crime. But I mean, I can see that argument for sure being a valid.
It's yet another way. I mean, Black and
It
Jewish communities have always been pitted against each other. And that was probably no accident either. Oh, make it so it's like when are we gonna step back and get the bigger picture of it all? Like, we are all citizens of this planet, and
mm,
nothing good has ever come from us being divided. The only people who've ever benefited from that are those pharaoh figures at the top. No one else benefits from it. Iran is in a, I think, like more than 670-day blackout. Our friend Netta, who was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, like, she can't even find out what's going on with her family or friends there
wow.
because there's no or very little access to the internet. And it's just, this is what's going on the planet. So Passover for us is an inadequate encapsulation of what we need to be focusing on. So I kind of jokingly said, I said to my mom and dad, because I decided I had to cancel even going to the Passover dinner because of the TSA ICE at the airport. I was like, if I see an ICE agent at the airport messing with anyone, I'm going to end up arrested. So
Mm-hmm.
I canceled, but I said, I'm not celebrating Passover. I'm celebrating Peaceover. And then, being the Sagittarius that I am, I was like, yeah, Peaceover. That maybe that's something that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not just other Jews, but anyone who's struggling with this, because we have a lot of allies
Mm-hmm.
who are really just distraught over what they see happening in Gaza and the Middle East. And it's very hard for them because they also have close Jewish friends, and everybody's caught up in this terrible
Mm-hmm.
conflict that has nothing to do with anything. I shared a couple weeks ago when I was talking about prophecies. There was an agreement made in 1916, a secret agreement called the
Right.
Sykes-Picot Agreement. A British diplomat, a French diplomat, and a Russian um, met secretly to carve up the Ottoman Empire and promised pieces of it to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. And they promised the same bits to it. It was all to
That's so
enrich
crazy.
themselves. And that led to the way the Middle East was carved up. The Balfour Declaration came the next year in 1917, which was the beginning of Palestine being promised to the Jews. But our grandfather, who his family fled Germany in the 1930s, long before World War II, just when Hitler was starting to come into power. Our great grandfather had a bad feeling and got out of there early, unlike many people. He did, and they went to Palestine, but our grandfather did not like it there and quickly went to America and ended up being in the U.S. Army later on as an interpreter for the Nuremberg trials, a supervisor of all of them, as I said. But he didn't like Palestine because he immediately, being the fair-minded Libra that he was, noticed that the British were really going out of their way to spread the same kind of propaganda that we see now, pitting the Jews and the Arabs against each other. And it really worked. That campaign really worked. They
We can
don't,
see it to this day.
you can see
Mm-hmm.
like there are many on both quote unquote sides who don't see each other as humans. You'll hear that. You'll hear like, no Jew can be trusted, no Arab can. You hear these horrible stereotypes being said as though they're true. The people actually bought into these beliefs, which is a result of, the things that Passover is against. So Peaceover, we actually have a little something for anyone who is interested in this. We made a ritual vision board. So we have what's called the Seder, the Passover meal, which means order. So to bring order back to the chaos, you have a plate. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll hold it up, but I made a little download because, graphic design degree, got to use it. I
Like that font.
redesigned the Seder plate, and the items on it to mean something different that you can tap into.
We should go through it here for the Seder. Yeah, I mean the Seder plate is it has these items on it that represent the pieces of the whole Passover celebration, as well as the story of the Exodus and the freedom from slavery, and I think
all
the
these
Last
rituals that
Supper
you
was
do.
actually Jesus's Last Supper, because Jesus was a Jew, was the Passover Seder, they say.
Yeah, there's a lot of Catholics who have Seders at their churches. My high school boyfriend's family always went to one. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's something
Let's do a little
Mhm.
peace over. And before we do, peace is a big topic this April at Astro Style. We have a couple announcements of events that
some of them free awesomely.
Yeah,
all of a sudden April showers have flowered into a bunch of amazing, enriching events that we're so happy to gift and offer to you.
Well, let's share what those are.
So this week we have our Peaceover downloadable Seder vision board. If you want to bring that to your dinner or just do it yourself or just check it out, astrostyle.com/peace. We're going to have links to all of these, but we'll put this in the show notes.
That's not an event, but it's a download for you.
That's a download, but that's going to be the page that has everything on it that I've mentioned.
Okay.
So,
yep.
Yeah, I'm making a little page. So by the time this airs, it'll be up. So, and this week is free summit, Manifesting Peace, with Jen Mazer, the queen of manifestation. Last year, some of you guys did her Manifesting with the Masters summit that I was part of. So she's gathered amazing leaders, including Gay Hendricks from The Big Leap, Neil Donald Walsh, Lynn McTaggart, who's a quantum physicist, and a bunch of other speakers. Netta, who was on our podcast, is part of it. So a bunch of conversations exploring what peace could look like. And that's free. Also, we've got the link in the show notes to go directly to it. You can also get to it from astrostyle.com/peace. And last month, we kicked off our monthly series, our free monthly manifestation meetups. And we're doing our next one Tuesday, April 21st at 7:00 Eastern for Taurus season, aka Venus season, because Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So come and manifest with us. Venus is the sign that rules peace. Actually, all of these events, I should say, came out of my Aries Mars season.
I know, it's true.
Because one of the things I said I wanted to manifest were keynotes and speaking events. And then boom, 4 of them popped up. And then who knows, maybe even more.
I can't wait till we do the Venus one, because I know people will be coming back again for who did Mars. But one of my manifestation goals was to finally get my garden planted here in Seattle, which, I had it landscaped, like the basic, structure of it, like, drainage put in, because there's a lot of rain here, and like, a retaining wall, but it's just like a square. Like, I don't have any trees or flowers. I've been like obsessively researching and clocking gardens around town. And now, like, this weekend, since I put that out there in the manifestation group, like, all of a sudden, my friend Stephanie Galing, who's an amazing astrologer, Pisces, we were together and we went to the nursery and the right plants just appeared, and
Your college roommates come into town.
and she just so happens to be a
Plant.
landscape architect. And I
Yeah.
went to the garden store to just look at something just randomly on Sunday morning, and there was my neighbor Brian, who has the most incredible, and I've been wanting to call him
His garden
anyways.
is a really good inspiration.
Yeah,
For
he's
what
a
I think you're
Leo.
envisioning.
Yeah, he's like one of those Leos who's like super resourceful, creative. Like he doesn't spend a lot of money, finds stuff free and salvages everything. And he just did this, like he had a trellis that he made with like an old vintage ladder, and like he used an
Mhm.
old vintage bed frame for a vine like trellis. I was like, this is so
That's
cool.
That's totally your vibe. And then there was a member of our Become Your Own Astrologer class in our community who told you about that flower farm.
Oh, right. Yeah. The Floret Farms that kicked off so much too. Like there's a farm, and there's an area called Skagit Valley that has tulip festivals. And yeah, just helped cement like what plants I was gonna put in. And I'm
So this is all from less than an hour long, like easy guided manifesting ritual where we looked at 3 traits of Mars and everybody set an intention. So we're doing that again April 21st for Venus, and we're going to do it every month this year. See how it goes, see what it turns into, but we would love to have you there again.
Kind of like a
Also
vision
free.
board, a monthly mini vision board
Yeah.
for the month.
So the last couple things on April 17th, 18th, and 19th, a free summit for women called Break the Pattern. And we'll be doing the keynote of it. It's a virtual summit, also free. There's a build-a-thon. It's looking at technology, how to enter the changing landscape, but specifically for women and marginalized communities to not be left behind with all of the AI stuff, not to do harm to the planet, but to really build your next big idea in a way that is in tune with the times. So our friend Angelina Milare is hosting it. She's a member of our community as well. So Break the Pattern, we've got the link for that. And then I will be speaking on Summit at Sea. If you some of you guys joined us or heard about us going to Detroit last summer for Summit Series, big gathering of thought leaders, wellness experts, just people developing the world that we all want to live in. So they're doing it as a cruise, April 23rd to 26th. And I will be speaking and I think even doing a workshop too, as well as on the cruise, me, Ophi, I'm going. And so if you have always wanted to be part of that community or are curious or want to, take a vacation with a bunch of amazing people, and learn and dance and work out and just eat.
Let your inner visionary just get so damn inspired. Yeah.
Summit at
I'm
Sea.
sad I'm not going, but I've got a garden to do. You've
got a garden.
Here.
It's leaving from Miami, so I guess
I'll
I
handle
have to go
the
down
land.
to Florida.
You handle the sea. Okay.
Thank God the Barbie convention's over. All right. So a little taste of Peaceover, the Seder vision board. And this is something that's meant to be universal. Our mom became a rabbi in 2006, and she created, as one of her first initiatives when she went back to Detroit after finishing rabbinical school in New York, she created Dion, the Detroit Interfaith Outreach Network, where she gathers with other faith leaders in their communities, and they visit each other's houses of worship, or they do community service and action projects in the city of Detroit. They do a yearly picnic, all kinds of things. So, that is how she combined her passion for activism, social justice, and faith in a way that really transforms things. So I guess we've got some of that in our blood, but mixed with our spiritual twist on it. we thought, what if the Seder plate could be reimagined as a vision board with each item on there, giving us an opportunity to think about things in a universal, unifying, peace forward ways. So one of the first items on the board is called haroset, and it's like an apple sauce with raisins and wine, or the Sephardic Jews make it with dates. And it's meant to symbolize the cement that was put between the bricks of the pyramids that the Jews or the Hebrews built. And so it represents the cement that held the bricks of the pyramids together. So for us, we're going to say it represents connection. And the question on the vision board is, where could you be a connector, a binding force, creating unity, even if it feels like there's a wall? So those bricks can feel really heavy, really stuck, but where could you connect people together? So for me, I'm actually having a dinner with, I think there's only one other Jewish person there, about 6 friends, all, an Italian Catholic, someone from Brazil, Mexico, and just it's a very multicultural group, and we're going to actually go through this together. So I feel like one way I can be a connector is speaking with friends who have Middle Eastern and American backgrounds too. I did a podcast with our friend Netta, who's Iranian, a couple weeks ago, and just continuing to, our friend Haifa, who was our guest tarot reader. She and I are working on some stuff together. So just really finding ways to show unity and friendship, which is what we were raised with in Detroit, instead of having to play to this narrative that doesn't reflect how we grew up or what we believe in.
Yeah. So. I'm getting hungry just looking at this Seder plate list. It's giving me memories of just our family. Really, we all pitch in to put this together and prepare the meal. Our dad is all about making the brisket every year too. So,
honestly, the food is the best part of these holidays. Yeah. So
now the second item there is the egg, beitzah, in Hebrew, which symbolizes rebirth. The haroset symbolizes the binding force. The egg is rebirth. It represents that continuous cycle of life and rebirth. We have spring in the air. So this is a good question of what timeless values do you want to, carry forward to create peace and unity on the planet? What needs to be continued? Where do we need some continuity of things? Yeah. What timeless values do you want to carry forward to create peace and unity on the planet? And I'm definitely going to be, I'm not hosting a Seder. I was going to, but it was a bit much to do here alone. But I am going to make a big pot of matzo ball soup and share that. But I think the timeless values for me are like humanitarianism, that we are all one, that we all come from one source, we are all connected, and that it doesn't matter where you're from, it's about where you're going, I guess. But it's like also just remembering that even though we might have different histories, and those should be celebrated and learned about, that we also are all human here. So that's my egg right there.
Yeah, the rebirth of remembering our commonalities, our common humanity. So the next item is the bone, which is the lamb bone, representing the sacrifice. There was a sacrifice of a lamb made when the Jews were freed. The celebration. So, that's what they did back then.
Well, they also put the blood of the lamb, because one of the 10 plagues was the slaying of the firstborn son of the Egyptians. This biblical shit is crazy, but the Jews put the blood of the lamb on their doorposts, and the angel of death, according to the Passover story, then skipped over their houses.
Passed over. That's the whole reason for it. I mean, I don't know what's up with these poor lambs. I mean, I'm going, punch the monkey here. Like, can we leave the baby animals alone?
Right.
But the symbol of this is symbolizing gratitude and celebration, as well as sacrifices made, and then gratitude. So again, this doesn't feel right to make it only for our culture, because there are so many people who are sacrificing, struggling, suffering horrible things right now, who are not able to celebrate freedom at all. They're enslaved. They've been picked up by ICE. Their homes have been destroyed in Gaza. They're maybe, living in cities like Tel Aviv and Tehran, and, trying to just live peacefully and coexist, and they're having to run to bomb shelters or have blackouts. Like, nobody wants this. No group is more or less worthy of freedom than any other. So so the question we have for this one is, what's one thing you could be grateful for now, even if peace isn't here for all of us yet? And I'm grateful that we have this community of people listening to the podcast who, for all the messages that you guys give us and send us, or the comments you leave on the shows, and just telling us like that, because it's scary to talk openly about this with algorithms and just the world we live in, and the chance of it being taken the wrong way. We would never want anyone to think that when we voice our opinions, that we're not here for you as an individual. So my gratitude is that people continue to give us the space to share and to hear what we're trying to say, that you understand where we're coming from, which is that we're voicing our truth in the name of creating a world that works for everyone.
Yep. And then this one I kind of alluded to earlier. The fourth item is the bitter herbs, also called maror, which kind of represent anger. So peace, like I was saying before, doesn't mean that you simply accept oppression or turn the other cheek. To process anger, we have to name the bitterness that we taste, the loss of freedom, unity, and equality. This is where you eat a big chunk of horseradish, which I happen to like, but a lot of people are like, no,
nostrils, but clears them right up.
I know. Yeah. I'm definitely going to get some of that just now that I have the excuse to. So where have you felt righteously angry, bitter, or upset? Well, where haven't you is really more of the question. But I think just watching the war machine, here in the United States, being a citizen here, and just like the destruction and devastation of years and years of peace and diplomacy, and just watching people become indoctrinated into this MAGA cult of hate, and just watching people be manipulated by fear and just like make excuses for it, and just say, well, war is, just,
war
like
is necessary.
the people aren't that people can be so manipulated by fear to think that this is the only way to do it, is just, and manipulated by hate. So that's one on my laundry list of bitter herbs. So
I'm angry about the things being committed in the name of the Jews, because we don't, so many of us don't want this. So the next item is the parsley, or green vegetable, karpas, and that is for hope, this piece of the vision board. It's supposed to be a sign of spring, and a reminder that even in the hardest times, spring and renewal do return. Those flowers are going to bloom on the streets of Seattle and soon New
Yep.
York. So, nature is more powerful than our human tricks here. So, what new beginning is trying to emerge in your life right now, even if it feels bittersweet? So, as a note, we dip the parsley or whatever into salt water, which is the next item on the plate. But a new beginning that's
The
trying to
salt
emerge.
water symbolizes tears.
Yeah, tears.
Mhm.
Yep. So hope. Where do I feel hopeful? Well, I feel that people are aware of things as well. That even though the efforts haven't yielded an overthrow of some of the authoritarian things that have happened, and even though it just feels so hard, like we're continuously being defeated, um, I also know if I look back at history that we're not at the end of the story here. Like people are just waking up now and people are showing up. And even if it feels like none of it makes a difference because they're going to do what they're going to do anyway, for me, I think the new beginning is also just some of these new opportunities that we're having to share a message that we've been all about our entire careers. Our first magazine, our first business was a magazine called Hughes, which was bringing women of all different identities and backgrounds together and representing them in a magazine. People who didn't usually see themselves, hear their voices. So, I wish the circumstances were better, but what I feel hopeful about is that like the last 30 years of our lives really prepared us for this moment between what we've learned from our lives of bringing communities together and astrology. So I feel hopeful that I can be there to make a difference for people who are struggling now. And then briefly, salt water is also on there. We dip the vegetables on, and for that represents grief. So if you are doing a Peaceover discussion and you use this, anger, we've got connection, rebirth, gratitude, anger, hope, and then grief, because it is heartbreaking. At the Seder, we dip the parsley in salt water, which symbolizes the tears shed for hardship. We say, oh, this is a celebration, but also a lot of sadness of what people had to go through to get there. And so, what are you carrying that you haven't given yourself permission to grieve, perhaps, so that you are currently grieving? It's just, the heartbreak over just seeing what's become of democracy, seeing, how indoctrinated some of the people in Israel and our fellow Jews are in hate, and vice versa. Just the grief of at a time that people have every access to come together as a global family, that we're choosing this, or we're being forced in some ways into this.
Well, this was a new one. The last two were not always part of the Seder plate, but the orange has been on the Seder plate for in recent years, and this symbolizes inclusion. So women were not always allowed to be rabbis. It's very recent that they are. And in the most orthodox sect of Judaism, they still don't recognize female rabbis like our mom. So a male rabbi once said that a woman rabbi is like an orange on the Seder plate. So in defiance, Reformed and progressive Jewish leaders began including citrus on the plate. So, as daughters of a female rabbi raised in feminism and by strong women ancestors, this one definitely means a lot to us. So the question here is, in what way have you ever been oppressed, ignored, or wrongfully deprived of something? I think that one kind of answers itself with the orange as, But also
Or what
recognizing maybe
community?
another question you could ask is there anyone in your community who is being left out that deserves inclusion right now, who has been historically marginalized or left out that you may have just not even thought about, and, not to go, oh, I hear you are, you've been, here's somebody who just popped up. Lux, the dachshund, wants to be included in the podcast,
The
but
orange dachshund
hello.
popped up on the Seder
I
plate.
mean, there's ways to do that,
How could you be involved in like creating a more inclusive
environment.
environment? It could even be like in your own neighborhood and community.
And of course, there's ways to do that aren't like insensitive or, make people feel even more left out by pointing out their differences.
I wouldn't
once had
recommend
a
that.
teacher who was like, when I see a Jewish person, I go up and apologize to them for the Holocaust, for my German ancestors. I'm like, please
God.
don't do like I don't want that. I just like, can we just be like people here together? Like,
Right.
that's glad that you read that first book, but
Yeah, that's
so.
too much. It's more, how can you be part of creating a more inclusive world? I mean, one of my friends, she's one of my friends started giving TSA workers Starbucks cards. She shared about that, my friend Catherine, and
That's cool.
shared about that on LinkedIn. She was like, well, we were traveling and just grabbed a handful of them, and she just suggested other people do that too. Those acts of like acknowledging people.
I see you
Yeah.
as a human who contains multitudes, not just a category or like what
TSA worker.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the last item is one that we added ourselves. We decided why not add a new thing, and it's a seed to represent the future because we are trying to futurize and modernize this. So, want to acknowledge the earth that sustains and connects us all. A seed seemed like a good symbol of that for spring as well, but also planning something for the future that symbolizes growth, continuity, the next generation. And, this is a moment to think about like what impact you could have, what contribution you could make, what could you plant for the future of the world that maybe your kids or your community or future generations will experience. Maybe that even outlives you. You might not even ever get to enjoy the fruits of it. It might happen beyond your lifetime, but like what you plant now, 3 generations from now will create the world
Right.
that others live in. Maybe you'll be reincarnated and you'll come back into it anyway. If you ask me, I think you will. So having a seed, I have to go figure out where to find a seed for my Seder plate. I'm going to Wegmans in New Jersey.
Get a little
later.
packet of seeds that
Yeah,
you could
that's what I
plant
figure.
in a windowsill garden. They have them at the grocery store.
You
Yeah.
probably have them there at the grocery store. So
Go to the Union Square Farmers Market in the city. I'm sure
even
they have
better,
them there.
support a local.
I actually have a bunch of tomato seeds that I've been eating those Le Fermier yogurts, and the cups are so nice, the terracotta ones. So my friend Sean is going to drill a hole in the bottom of them. I'm going to make a bunch of tomato plant starts with those.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I think I'll do that for on pet. I think I'm going to actually do that on.
It's
That'll
your
be my
seed ritual. Yeah. I mean, this was just something we kind of made up. I mean, hopefully it'll inspire whether you're Jewish or not. Just these are meant to be universal, interfaith, not religiously linked, even though they're rooted in what we learned from the religion we we're born into, and yours to take and adapt however you want. So you can download these from astrostyle.com/peace, along with getting yourself sign up for the Manifesting Peace Global Summit, also free If you're interested in that, we'll drop a few other resources on there. So wishing you a positive and unifying and peaceful Libra full moon week this week.
Yes. And of course, if you want to book a reading with us, we have some spots open for spring now. So go to astrostyle.com/readings. We've absolutely loved meeting so many of you and looking at your birth charts, helping you map out the new quarter. We can do that, map out the year, make a important decision with some cosmic guidance, investigate relationships. I've been lucky enough to do readings for like a lot of moms who will then buy readings for their kids who are interested, and even their partners. I've done some family readings over the last year because everyone's into
cool.
astrology now, it's
That's
not
great. People understand that it's really something that creates peace in the name of Peaceover.
Great, yeah.
Why would you not want your kids and your partner to understand their charts too, so you can all work with each other, and that's what it's all about: coexistence, living well together.
Thanks for tuning in to AstroTwins Radio. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, we'd be over the moon if you left us a 5-star review. It helps fellow astrology lovers find us. And make sure to hit subscribe and follow us on iTunes and Spotify so you never miss an episode. Want the full visual experience? You can also watch the video version on our YouTube at AstroTwins-TV. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at AstroTwins and head over to astrostyle.com to read your free daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope that we write for you with love. Until next time, move with intention and let the universe meet you there.